Yo, what's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to be doing EscapeTwo from HackTheBox. This is a box word about solid easy. And yeah, let's get on to the video. As always, I'm starting by putting my terminals here. Before doing that, we do have some credentials for the box. We do have our IP for 10.10.11.51, as well as for the count for rows and KX and the string for just our password, right? We do have the machine information as it's common for real life Windows pen test, as it will start a box of credentials with the following account. So we just do have one account for rows followed by the password. So I'm going to start by doing an mmap scan. So do mmissc for default scripts by enumeration. We'll scan out ports and IP. We'll do my z verbose. I already did run an mmap scan, so I'm just going to more into nmap.txt. And here we do have a couple ports open. Port 53 for domain for DNS, port 88 for Kerber rows, 135, 139 for RPC. We also have SMB, 389 for LDAP, 636. We have 1433 for MS SQL. This is a Microsoft Server 2019. We do have a 3260 for LDAP, which we do have a host name for SQL HTTP. I'll just copy that, put that into my domain name or my /etc host for later on. And just to confirm, we also do have a domain control 01 for SQL.htb. So the same thing here. I'm going to put this into my /etc host. Working with Windows machines, it's always best to work with the host name. Depending on the command for if you want the domain controller or you just want the IP address of the machine. But using like crackmap exec or NXC, you'll probably need for a host name, right? So we do have a SQL HTTP, CamISI host, just to make sure. And we do have that SQL HTTP. I want to put this into my leaf pad here, just to make sure we have everything documented for the host name, and as well as the IP address. Looking back at that map scan, we just have RPC, and that seems about it for that map scan. So I'm going to start by checking for different types of protocols. We have LDAP, we have MS SQLC or MS SQL, as well as for SMB. The easiest one we can do is SMB map. I'll do SMB map minus H for 10.10.11.51. So we can do for SMB, and we don't have anything for that. So we can use the password for rows. We'll do minus U for rows. We'll just do minus P for the password. And this will enumerate the shares for us for SMB. And we have the hosting for SQL HTTP. We have default shares, admin, IPC, sysvolve, but we do have an accounting department. Most people will use SMB maps, a little old, but most people will use SMB client. If we do SMB client, we'll do SMB client. We'll do myself for 10.10.11.51. We can do minus U for rows, minus P for the password. Enter the password, and you'll get the same thing for accounting department disk. The reason I don't like using it, or sometimes I like using it for logging into the share, but usually for displaying, SMB map will allow us to view all the shares in like a orderly fashion manner for like read only, no access. This will just tell us if it's a disk. You can also do like SMB or use crackmap exec or NXC to list out the shares for 10.10.11.51. Specify SMB. I believe there's a minus my shares option. Let's do a minus U for rows and minus P for the password. And this will do the same thing and list out all the shares for us as well. So this one's actually pretty good as well. The output is for the standard output's pretty good. It just doesn't tell us if this is, actually tells us read. The same thing for here, what SMB map does for us, but for me, SMB map and using crackmap exec is probably the best option to use for readability, right? Since we have -u, since we have rows and also the password valid, I'm gonna use SMB client now to connect. We'll do 10 10 10 11 51. We'll do this for the let's run this one more time for the share for department accounts or accounting department. SMB client for 10 10 11 51. We'll specify accounting department for -u. Do for rows. We have the password. We do ls. And now we're into the share. We have 2 files for an accounting 2024, as well as for an account xlsx or accounts.xlsx. Get this file, and now we have 2 files. So I'm going to make a directory for SMB. We'll copy the accounting 2024 to the SMB, and the same thing for accounts. We'll cd into SMB. We'll run a file against accounting. See what file this is. This is going to be a zip archive. If we run we can check let's check the metadata for the XF tool for accounting 2024. We don't really have anything, but this seems to be a zip file. If you run a file, we can easily unzip this accounting 2024. We do have the file, so we cd into Excel. We have a shared strings XML file under here. Nothing under here. Let's go to printer settings. Nothing under here as well. We'll do the same thing for accounts. I believe I did let's do SMB2. I'm going to copy the accounts to SMB2. We'll go to Excel. This is where all the strings are going to be stored. Let's go into shared strings. And we do have some usernames and passwords in here. I'm going to now into shared strings. The reason for this is because this will give me into an output for the first name, or into like orderly manner into one line. So in this case, we have a first name, last name. These are the parameters which is going to be used in orderly fashion manner. So if we go to Angela for the first name, Martin for the second name, and also for the email address. So I'm going to start by creating we'll create a directory for spray, because we're going to start by spraying a lot of, we'll do Control-Shift-O as well for the usernames and the passwords. So we have Angela. I'm going to get all the usernames that we can find for Angela. I'll get all the usernames that we find within this file. We have Angela. We have the password as well. So we'll specify this for the password. The same thing is going to be for Oscar. We have a password for Oscar, which we do for 86. And for 86, Kevin Malone, maybe user as Kevin. We have the password for Kevin. And what else? We have SA. Let me go back. We have MD already for MD. And the last users for SQL, which is going to be for the user for SA. And also, like when doing Windows machines or like during a pen test, you don't want to just rely on what you find based on usernames. You can use like Kerboot to against like Seclist or Zato top 1 million, or just the username word list that you can use to discover what is on the domain controller. So you don't always want to depend on basically just what you find. So you can copy that. So now we have our passwords.txt. We have our password.txt. We have our users, users.txt, Angela, Oscar, Kevin, and SA. So I'm going to open up Firefox. I want to try for curb roots. This will allow me to verify what usernames are on the domain. So we can do curb root for username num against the domain, also specifying the users.txt. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna get clones repository. Here we do have actually instead of git cloning it, let's get the releases, actually the specific binary that we do have. Yeah, we can just use the AMD64 instead of curb root. We'll do chmod plus x for curb root, run a curb root, and we can use a user enum, which we want to specify. We have minus DC, minus domain controller for 10.10.11.51. We'll do minus D for domain. We see the example here. So we have SQL HTTP. We don't find the domain controller, minus DC. Also need to specify do minus DC. And we can use a users.txt, which we have SMB, or we're going to spray for the users.txt. So we only find Oscar as a valid user, but if we can go to seclist, we can use like seclist, user share word list for seclist. What I was talking about before, we can go into Zato, usernames top 1 million. We'll just use we'll go into usernames. We'll just do a .txt. And we find other users on the domain controller for Michael Ryan, which we didn't find previously. So we'll do Ryan. We already do have Oscar. We don't have Michael. We have Rose, which we didn't specify before. And it seems about it. Usually when a curb root starts repeating its users, pretty much that's going to be all the users that we do have. So next, we also did have a password. We got our password.txt. We did have a MS SQL. We also did have the port open for MS SQL. So let's check back. We have that 2019 SQL server, Microsoft SQL Server 2019. We can use NXC or CrackMapExec. My CrackMapExec is not working, so I don't know if I want to use this. We can just start using CrackMapExec and see where this leads us, right? So do 10.10.11.51. I'm going to try for WinRM first, just to spray, and then we can do it for MS SQL password. And then we can do for users.txt as well as for passwords.txt. We'll do continue on success, I believe is so we don't stop. And this seems to work. You see my CrackMapExec is not working properly, but we can definitely, hopefully this gives an output for this. If it does not, since we're doing for WinRM, we can use NXC as well. But I think it is working for, it is still spraying the service for WinRM. I'm going to do another Control-Shift-O. We want to do the same thing now for MS SQL. And the reason I want to test for MS SQL is due to the password that we did find. The password is MSQL password. So I'm supposing this is matching to the service for MS SQL. We do get an error here for login. If I may do another Control-Shift-O. So it doesn't seem like we found anything for any of these. This one's using WinRM. Let me close this one out. This one's going to be for, but you can error for the logging. So I'm guessing the error is not supposed to say that, but we do have successful login for Oscar and followed by that password. And let's check for, we didn't get anything for MySQL password. We do have the user for SA. Maybe this is why it's not working. Let's VI into users.txt. We do have SA under there. Let's see if we can use NXC. NXC is probably since this is better for my crack map exec is not working properly. So now we do get Oscar for that. I'm going to start by specifying a local auth. Let's try a local auth. Let's see what this gives me for output. And then for a while, we do get a SA for MSQL password. It doesn't seem like this is working for my crack map exec, but we do have this pwned as for MySQL for the service. Let's put this in here so we can just simply get the password for SA. I'm going to start by using inpacket. Inpacket will allow us to inpacket for MS SQL client. We can do mice help. So here we can specify inpacket for MySQL. Let's check for SA. We'll specify the credentials for MySQL password at 10.10.11.51. We logged in. The first thing I like checking is running the help command. Help command will allow us to see if we can actually view or execute the CMD using xp_cmd shell. By default, we do have this disabled. So if we go to CMD shell enabled, we can look at the documentation directly from Microsoft to see how we can enable this. By default, we can enable XP shell, CMD shell to run the SP configure. So we can specify this using one. Let's go back. And we can run the reconfigure statement. So now if I do run, let's run the XP CMD shell for who am I. We are under SQL SVC. So basically, yeah, we can just change this to 1. Usually by default, we have this for the value for 0. Change this to 1, we'll enable it. However, we have to make sure to run this shell quickly because I believe there's an expiration date for about 3 minutes before it does disable again for like security features. So I'm going to go to rev shells. I like using a base 64, which is probably the easiest method we can use. The easier, the better for this. So we can do 10.10.16.71. For 9001, we'll go to Windows. I'm going to get for PowerShell base 64. We can run this. Editing. This didn't copy correctly. Let's go back to rev shells. Something happened with this. We'll go to PowerShell base 64. I clicked on raw, not for copy. Just to confirm that this does run. If I run this, you'll see this hangs on us. I'll run this one more time. We could get a connect. So I do who am I? And now we're under SQL underscore SVC. So now since I'm under SQL, I want to start doing some enumeration. I'll do it there under Windows. Check under here. We don't have anything under here. We'll go back. I do want to check for some users. We'll go to dir, SQL, and Ryan, which are just users that we did enumerate. So this is what I was talking about when we do run the Kerberos as a Kerberoots. We did find the user successfully as Ryan. Before we didn't find that, but using Kerberoots, just enumerating the users or using seclist for the Zato 10 million usernames, we did find as Ryan as a valid user on the machine, right? For the domain controller. We'll do dir. We do have a directory for SQL 2019. See what this is. As well as for Express. We have a setup exe, and we also have a SQL configuration for a INI file. If you don't know what an INI file, we do have an INI file is a set of valid pairs during an installation for a application. We did see from the Mmap scan, we have Microsoft SQL 2019. So whoever installed this had a SQL configuration for the valid pair, which is created by MySQL. So if we do type this for SQL configuration, you'll see that we have default values for like installation. We can check by the action, which is action right here for install. And you see this was the installment for SQL 2019. And we have valid pairs here. So by valid pairs, I mean we have SQL followed by the password for SQL underscore SVC and followed by this password here. So we do have a new password here. I'll VI into passwords.txt, put this into as a new password. We'll do crack map exec for WinRM. And I'm going to check if we can still WinRM with that new password for any of the other users, right? So go back. We have this is worked for SQL SVC. But doing this, we can just wait and see what we get. Do dir, we'll do who am I, and we are under Ryan. So now let's look back at the crack map exec. We don't have any other users except from Ryan. I believe we also have this password would work against the user that we need to find for the SQL user, which would work as well. But using Ryan, it seems like there was a password reuse for this user. Going back to Firefox, I want to start by checking a program called PowerView. This will allow us to do a simple privilege escalation or do some enumeration based on the user that we do have. This makes it easier since we do have all the commands within the program within PowerShell, and all we need is credentials and a username to log in to run these commands for us. You'll see that they use a tab, and you'll have all these commands ready for us to use. So I'm gonna start by git cloning this. I'll just git clone this. I'll go back. So first, we're going to need to start by logging into with Ryan using PowerShell or PowerView. So we can do Python 3 for PowerView.py. And we're able to log in. So look at how they are able to log in. So basically they use PowerView for range.net. So we can use the host name for that. Let's go to SQL HTTP. So SQL.htb, they did use for the /. We'll do Ryan. The syntax is pretty weird. Let's run this for the password. We'll do at 10:11:51. I guess this is how they have it for the password, followed by at 10:11:51. Press it on that. And doing this, we can just do double tab, and we have all the possibilities here for objects and having for privileges, right? So next, I want to start by checking for the get domain. If I just do a get domain, we can check for a get domain user, and it also does continue with the next command, so which is pretty neat, that we can identify. We can identify. I guess we can specify Ryan. Select, and we don't have an object SID. And here we do have the successful for the SID. So now we can get a domain or a domain object ACL. This will get the specify this to add ownership to full control. So by default, if we let's get the domain object ACL. ACL will display the privileges for Ryan. In this case, we can resolve the GUIs. We'll do security identifier for our domain object, or for the GUI. And right here we have the Active Directory rights for right owner. So since we do have a right owner, we can actually change and give him full control. We'll give Ryan full control over the user for CA SVC. We also have the object DN, which is going to be for the default user for CA SVC. Since we have the certification authority. So I'm going to we'll set the domain, I believe it's domain owner or domain object owner. I think domain object owner will specify a target. The target identity for CASVC, I believe, is a default for the certification authority. Principal identity, and we can specify for Ryan. So now we change the owner from 512 to 114, which we didn't have up here, which is we're switching him to get the full control over the CA SVC. So now we transfer the owner for certification to Ryan for 1114. Now let's, I forgot the name, I believe it was add domain, something object, domain object ACL. We'll do target identity, CA underscore SVC for principal identity. Let's do Ryan for rights GUI, rights, and can we do full control? We can do full control. So we have the target identity for CA SVC, principal identity for Ryan, and we give Ryan the full control for, we added full control to SV to 1607. So I did find the certification authority. So that's what I'm just trying to find for the identity for that. So now that we do have the identity, let's go back and we'll do a Control-Shift-O here. So now, since we do have Ryan does have full control over to create a certificate, let's start by getting the certificate for the administrator, right? In this case, let's get the account for CASVC, which let's do Ryan at. Let's get the host name for SQL HTTP. Ryan at SQL HTTP. We'll do -p for the password. I'll specify the password. I don't believe we do need the. We don't have a double tab. I think it's, let's check for cert IPOID minus help. So we can also do the shadow. We can do shadow credentials for account takeover. So do -account for CA under SVC. Minus the controller DCIP for 10.10.11.51. CA SVC. Let's do shadow. And we don't have the, we don't have enough permissions for this. Auto -u, SQL -p, the count for CASVC. Doesn't seem like we have all the, we still have right owner. Maybe let's check for target identity. For Ryan. Now we can run the principal identity full control. Let's run this one more time. So now it should have running this command resolve GUIDs. This should have full control, but it does not have full control. Not sure why, but we'd still get the hash for CASVC. So now, since we do have the hash for SVC, CASVC, I want to put this into my text editor. So I want to make sure we don't lose this hash. I'm not sure why this is not showing as when I do refresh it for the Active Directory write. It's still under right owner. Not sure, it should show full control, but I'm not sure if there's a time limit as well, because when I did run the command, it reset back to the right owner, but we're still able to get that hash once we do rerun the commands again. Let's go back. So we're going to be using cert IPIAD. We'll do find -u. We can run this again, actually. We can just reset the... We do find -u, -p. I believe we can use -h for hashes. SVC, CASVC. We'll take off the shadow. STD out. Let's check for CASVC. STD out. Let's do the find. This will find anything that's vulnerable. And we find this for ADCS, and we do have something vulnerable, which is going to be a template for cert publishers for ESC4. So going into ESC4, you can look into more documentation. I'm not too knowledgeable about this, but you can have permissions, or this allows to have any, it's a template, it's a vulnerable template for, that's vulnerable to ESC4, which means that we have permissions over the over the template to make it vulnerable to ESC1. So looking into this, you can look into more documentation online, but if we can find we can specify the hash and get an administrator hash based on, or like a PFX, which is going to be like a certificate. We can log in, and if we're able to log in, then we can just use the evil WinRM, right? So we want to make the ESC4 into ESC1. We can do this by using the same tool, certip-ad. This will allow us to make this into ESC1 and getting the administrator certificate. And then we can also request the hash once we do have that certificate from administrator. So let's start by doing that. So we can manage the template to force manage the template. There is if you use minus help, let's just take this off and do minus help. We'll do minus help. You'll see that we do have manage certificate templates. This will force it to actually go to ESC1. We can do -u for, oh yeah, we do have this for vulnerable, but let's just do it from this command. This is simpler. So we can do -u for CA, SQL. We'll specify minus hashes. It's going to be the same hash. Minus template. And then -CA. We'll specify the template for authentication, and then also the authorization, which is going to be for DC01. We'll do minus domain controller things -IP. It shouldn't be, yeah, it should be 10.10.11.51. We'll do minus target. It's going to be for SQL HTTP. We have an error for CA. Let's take this off. We don't need the CA, but this should successfully update it for the authentication. Now if we go to vulnerable, we'll find that this has the ESC1 now. The ESC1, 2, and 3 were added, and now they're shown as vulnerabilities. Next, we want to request a certificate before there is a time limit for when this does go back to ESC1 or ESC4. So we just want to do this quickly so we can get that the certificate right for administrator. We'll specify the hashes. We'll do CA. We'll do -CA. In this case, we have the DC01. We'll do minus template. Template. Actually, we already did the template. Do minus target. HTTP. SQL HTTP. Authentication minus U, I believe it was minus UPN, administrator at skill.htb. And I think we have everything. UPN, can we request it? Press it on that. Doesn't seem to be requested. We have the right hashes, CA. It probably did go back to let's go back into our history. Let's set the template one more time. Let's go to vulnerable. It should be vulnerable now. Now we can then go back into our to request the certificate. Press enter again. Hopefully it runs this time. Now we do get a certificate as administrator. So this is what I was saying. There's actually, when we do run vulnerable, let's just go back to ESC4 instead of, it does manage the template itself, which we don't need, right? So I'll use cert AD. We'll specify auth for minus. We'll do else minus delay. We do have the. Let's get the administrator PFX. Certs, we'll do auth minus X. I just followed the minus PFX is an easy way to remember. Minus PFX for authentication. We'll do minus domain. Domain. Now this will give us the hash. We have the hash for 7a. We'll just do evil winrm. We'll do minus I for 10, 11, 15. I believe we can do minus U for the administrator. We'll do minus H for the hash, which is going to be ending in FF. You can press it on that. 10, 10, 11. We do have a, we can see it's our desktop, do dir, we can type root.txt. Or pretty much this end of the video. This was a pretty, it's not easy machine. It can be a little confusing when you have different timing methods and also working with the commands to actually change the owner from Ryan to control, as well as getting the certificate can be a little confusing as it does go back to ESC1 when in reality, or it does go back to ESC4. So you got to run the commands quickly. If not, then you got to run the command again to get it back to ESC1. And then you can run to get the certificate again, or run the template and then run the certificate again. So it does, so you get the certificate to log in through for administrator. Well, guys, pretty much in the video. I rate this box about a solid medium. Definitely not a easy box to complete, but pretty much in the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.